What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I am Johnny Monoxide. Joining me this evening is Adam Haidt. What's up, Adam?
What's going on? Just been blowing the fuck out of normies.
Nice.
Hanging out.
Yeah. Me too, actually. The normies this week have been rather sad. Rather sad.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say that I blame them. I mean, like, you know, all the things they said that wasn't going to happen have happened, and they keep happening.
That's right.
That's right. Man, this first week of Der Trumpenführer has been pretty amazing so far, huh?
Those executive orders, man.
This is what winning feels like, people. All right, enough about this. We are not the political podcast. So, what you been up to this week, dude? Oh, by the way, we are only joined by Adam Haidt of the Paranormies this week. Everybody else is just not here. They're ghosts this week, so yeah. Just me and Adam.
Yeah.
We do have a guest. We'll get to our guest in just 1 second. Let's go ahead with what you were saying, Adam.
Oh, yeah. I've just been hanging out, blowing out normies at work. Doing my part in the meme war.
What's that like? Because you're kind of in sort of a liberal area. Is that like, is it rough on you being a non-liberal?
I mean, it's alienating, but you learn to cope with it. Like, I have developed those smug Pepe instincts, so when I hear the shitlibs at work bitching, you learn subtle ways to just, like, throw out those little things that just gets the hamster in a hamster wheel and their brain spinning and upset without actually saying anything, like, directly antagonistic.
Nice.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys at work that we joke around all the time. Anything that happens bad. Oh, we got hacked by the Russians. So just joking like that.
Yeah,
we make joke. We make jokes. It's no big deal. But
one of my coworkers who we talk about like Nietzsche and other weird shit sometimes, but he's still kind of a shitlib, and he asked me what my opinions on the protests were, and of course you use the word protests. I just I was just like, oh, they gotta have their temper tantrums.
Yeah. Nice.
And then he just sort of just shut up. Yeah,
I have a guy at work who's like super shitlib, very pro protest, and I made jokes about like Saturday was International Sandwich Shortage Day. It's all the women were not in their kitchens.
Oh, yeah.
That's the sounds. I was like, did you hear that Saturday? That noise? It was like the sounds of millions of empty kitchens. He gets so mad. He's so fucking flustered with that. It's pretty funny, but, whatever. I was like, do you wish you had a vagina so you could... I was like, actually, dude, you don't even need a vagina. Like, you don't need a vagina to be a woman nowadays, right? So, anyways... That's all. Yeah, not having a vagina and being a woman. That's for a whole other episode. Anyways, so guys, you may know that we have some social media stuff. We have our Facebook page, The Paranormies Presents the Ahnenerbe Hour. We have our Twitter. It is at Real Paranormies, and our Gmail and our donations page is paranormiespresent@gmail.com. I'd like to thank all you guys, all you guys for the donations we've gotten recently, and this week we're donation free, but we appreciate them anyways. Right.
I know recently there was a lot of donations going somewhere else to some people that needed it. So
there was, yeah, and we appreciate that too. I mean, like, they needed the donations, and that was great of all you people that did donate to that cause. We're still here. We're still
who you are.
Yeah, we're still here. We're still on the rightstuffradio.biz, and we're still talking about paranormal and occult and spoopy and conspiratorial shit. And this evening we are joined by a friend of mine. He goes by Mr. Dark Enlightenment. He is out of the Cascadia area, and I believe he has himself a new show too. What's up, dude?
Hey guys, how's it going? I do have a new show. It's called Northwest Imperative. It's a specific regional focus for us Northwest guys. And give it a listen. We've got 2 episodes in the can already. And our pal Jeffrey Fairwater's producing it, and I'm hosting, and it's been a good time so far.
It's a good show. I listen.
Hosting a show was.
Oh, sorry.
If I'd have known hosting a show was so much fun, I'd have done it earlier.
Dude, I'm telling you,
it's a blast.
It's a lot of fun. I did check out your first episode. I haven't gotten to the second one yet. It's in the queue, but first one was great, dude. I mean, I heard people were like, "Well, it's very regional." Of course, it's regional, and I believe that regional shows are a good idea. We have a couple of guys here in the Bay Area are going to be doing. They've done one episode of a Bay Area show. There was the Bay Arean Guys, and I don't know if they're going to keep that title, but they're working on some new episodes. And I know we used to have Sunshine Shitposting, which was a Florida-based show. And, I mean, dude, you guys want to make podcasts and stuff? You want to do something regional, get everybody around you into it? That's a great idea. Anyways, so what are you bringing to the table tonight there, Dark Enlightenment?
Well, like you said, I'm from the Cascadia region, and the big conspiracy in my neck of the woods is HAARP, the high. What's the acronym? The Aurora.
Yeah, high sounds right for the Pacific Northwest.
Well,
it's the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which is abbreviated HAARP.
Because I think they chose that because HFAARP would be HAARP, which is just silly.
Right.
That's true. You have to have a catchy acronym if you want funding. Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because that's that's down the road from me a ways, but it's in the same general area. And we were going to talk about. I mean, it's kind of creepy. Alex Jones is right again. I mean, they are making the frogs gay, and if I was a little gay frog, I'd be pretty angry too.
Oh, so, what did you say?
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
Yeah, that's happening, and as we know, gay frogs are unhappy frogs. So. Anyway, there is some legit conspiracy about population control, and just to kind of talk about that real briefly before we get into HAARP. This weekend is going to be the annual March for Life, and I know that not everybody is pro or anti-abortion in our side of the aisle, but the Lügenpresse, declined to cover this event every year. That's happened every year since 1973. And it's the biggest event in Washington consistently, every year for years. And,
wow.
Hundreds of thousands of people show up to this thing in, rain or shine, doesn't matter. Weather's terrible, January. And of course, they get no coverage at all. And all of these women talking about destroying their lives, wearing stupid pink hats. That's the upwelling of democracy that we can't ignore. But, this other event, having twice as many people or consistently lots more people. That's
it's pretty crazy. That's pretty good. And they don't. It's been going on since you said 70 what?
74 or 75. Ever since Roe v. Wade in 73, I think.
Okay, so that is 20. Holy cow! 74, 75. That is 40, 42, 43 years. It's been going on. And it's gotten zero coverage. Now there's a conspiracy for you right there. All right, so we'll get into that.
Not real.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Certain people don't want normal white people to have kids, and we'll get into that.
Interesting. Yeah, we will. We will get into that. So back to HAARP now. From what I know about HAARP is it's this giant radar array up on an Air Force base in Alaska, I believe. And it's basically a giant radio transmitter. Is that like operating in like the HF high frequency band? Is that right?
Yeah, it's like the opposite of a radar telescope. So this little tiny town of I think it's Gakona, Alaska. And so you guys talked about it when Masonius was on. But Alaska and in the West generally, there are these huge chunks of territory that the federal government controls. Like if you look at a map, the entire state of Nevada, except for like Vegas and Reno, is federal government land. So They can do all kinds of stuff out here and nobody will know anything. I mean, there's just this huge amount of land that they can do stuff with. So they like having, facilities where people can't really find them and they're difficult to get to. And so there's this town of a couple hundred people that backs onto some national park land and stuff, and they put this facility in here, and it's just a bunch of radar arrays, and it's a bunch of emitters that are specifically aimed at the ionosphere. Supposedly it's for research into the northern lights, but we'll get into like some of the other possible uses of it. But anyway, it's this it's been shut down, I think due to budget cuts, but that there's a lot of money that got spent on this stuff, and there's some possibly pretty dangerous uses. So
interesting. Yeah, it got shut down in 2013. It was something to do with the contractors who operated the facility. There was like budget cuts, and the one client didn't want to pay out of their pocket. They wanted more government funding. I know that there's a kind of a, I don't want to call it a protest, but there's been like the Inuits or whatever have kind of like protested this thing like the whole time, right?
Yeah, there's been a combination of Alaska Native sovereignty types and local environmental groups that have all protested this. Generally, people who are against like the military-industrial complex. There's been a coalition of people against this stuff. So there's a fellow by the name of Nick Begich, who was the former Senator Mark Begich's younger brother, and he's the son of our former House representative, I guess. That kind of wrote a book about this stuff. Angels don't play this harp, and he kind of spearheaded the local local resistance to this stuff, and he wrote a book about it. So there's lots of people up here that weren't particularly pleased with how things were going. I mean, there's shady money, there's grants to universities, there's the military industrial complex, there's possibilities of malfeasance. There's just a lot of stuff involved with this thing.
Yeah, the universities thing, like it's unreal the amount of money that gets poured into like university science, and absolutely anything could happen to it. Like there's places you can go that will just have like uranium assaults totally not locked up or anything. Like it's just incredible to me how much money can be poured into science, and like the wildest shit can just go on, and nobody cares.
Right. So around the time that HAARP was established, our university in Fairbanks got like a Cray supercomputer. They're one of a few dozen places in the world that have one of these, and they do some research and stuff other than this HAARP thing. But coincidence that they get this gigantic supercomputer at the same time that this thing is happening? I don't know. Probably not.
Well, that here on the Paranormies, we don't believe in coincidences, because coincidences are just coincidences or coincidences. Yeah. So there's that. Coincidences. Yeah, with an H. So you said they got this. What kind of supercomputer was it?
One of the Cray supercomputers.
Okay, and what was it? What was it supposed to be for?
Well, I guess they've used it for HAARP stuff, because that's the closest college to where the HAARP was at. But
okay. So there really wasn't anything nefarious about the actual computer itself. No. Yes.
No, it's probably just a convenient place to have like that level of processing power. Yeah, supercomputers are kind of neat, but a totally different topic.
Right. So what was the original reasoning for even setting HAARP up, and what was it like its intended purpose to begin with?
So
well, I know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Adam. You go ahead, please.
It's studying the ionosphere primarily, which is the layer of the atmosphere that protect it. Like, it's very thin, it's pretty high up, and it will protect the Earth from like X-rays and UV rays. And so like those those photons that come in from the sun, which are harmful, get absorbed by just like stuff that's floating in that layer of the atmosphere. It's kind of like a like a buffer zone. The ionosphere is like a buffer zone between the air that like is useful to us that we breathe and everything, and like the magnetosphere, which is a little bit farther out. And yeah, primarily just protects us from radiation and stuff, the bad kind.
Okay, so the HAARP was created to, you said, to study the ionosphere or to...
Yeah, to study it and just to experiment with trying to produce like a different, like extreme frequencies of radio waves, because it's called the high frequency, high frequency active auroral research program, but they also developed a lot of low frequency like technology and techniques, which is very difficult to do because like low frequency needs to have like enormous transmission antennas, like kilometers long, which is just not really practical. So they pretty much had to set up like an entire facility just to do it. But they have some interesting properties.
Right, but okay, so you said that the ELF, they were talking about the extra low frequencies, right? What they
Mm-hmm.
they didn't set out to create those, but was that something that, or did they set out to create those?
Well, you know, whether that was part of the original, like the founding goals, I don't know. But they were able to develop techniques to develop or like to generate those types of waves, which, you know, previously it just wasn't practical at all.
Right. Isn't it? It's got something to do with the wattage or something with that.
Well, just like having to need the antenna to produce that sort of thing, because like the wavelength of radiation that's produced at those frequencies is like, you know, 100,000 kilometers long, which means you basically just have to, and I'm not an expert or anything, but you need an antenna that's like comparably long to do it. Like it's why car antennas are certain lengths. Like it literally has to be big enough to capture the entire wavelength. So making one that's 10,000 kilometers in wavelength, that's an expensive antenna unless you can develop a workaround.
Well, from what I've been reading, that the what do you call it? The HAARP uses it focuses the ELF into the ionosphere into like 12 miles by 2.5 miles at a time. And so would that be because, I mean, you saying that like they need to be a larger array to get it to? I'm kind of confused by what you're saying.
Yeah, if you want more wavelength, you need like a longer antenna.
Oh,
and
okay,
more wavelength means a lower frequency.
Right,
or
but
higher
I mean,
wavelength.
as it stands right now, they're able to push, you know, waves into, like I said, like a 12 mile by 2.5 mile rectangular area as it is.
Yeah, that's what they were able to figure out. Like previously, that's like part of the benefit of the.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Like that, it's previously to HAARP, they were having issues. Now they discovered this. Now, see, okay, it clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a large. I mean, HAARP's huge. It's 180 antennas. It's 72 feet tall. It's powered by 3.6 million watts, which is ridiculous considering that like the maximum that an AM station in the United States can use is 50,000 watts, and like that's, you can't even do it now. Those are like grandfathered in. So 3.6 million watts. That's a lot of electricity.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any DeLoreans on site.
Using gigawatts, yeah, gigawatt. Anyways, so what? So when they were messing with the ionosphere, what did they discover that, well, you know, like they could do with this thing? Any of you guys?
You got anything? Dark Enlightenment?
Yeah, so there's a fellow by the name of Eastland who talked about took out some patents back in the day, and this book talks about some things that he was able to speculate, like perhaps cause earthquakes. I mean, just all kinds of crazy stuff. So the ionosphere, right? The Northern Lights aren't really all that big a deal for me, being up where they occur fairly regularly. But I think you guys have talked about in the past the Carrington event.
Did we? I don't remember that.
Okay, so back like right around the time of the Civil War, there was a massive solar eruption, and all these charged particles come to Earth, and they set telegraph wires on fire. There was like effectively what was like a gigantic EMP over like the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. The northern lights were seen as far south as like Tennessee and stuff like that. And the ionosphere is what kind of protects us from that stuff. Every time you see the northern lights or the southern or the aurora australis, the southern lights, that's a bunch of charged particles hitting the ionosphere and kind of reacting with that, so that radiation doesn't make it to Earth. And if we didn't have that, we'd all like EMPs, nothing electronic would work, and we'd all get cancer. So this is obviously, it's relatively thin section of the atmosphere, as Adam said, but it's pretty important. So messing with this is a little bit dangerous. Like if you broke the ionosphere, we'd all be screwed. And
that's bad.
That's what just a fun fact for the listener. That's what an ion is. It's just a charged particle. So those charged particles hit the ionosphere and they interact with other charged particles and are neutralized, and we don't die, which is great.
Yeah, that's always nice. You were saying that the
quote here.
Go ahead.
Quote here. Quote from the book on weather modification is possible by, for example, altering upper atmosphere wind patterns by constructing one or more plumes of atmospheric particles, which will act as a lens or focusing device. Also, molecular modification of the atmosphere can take place so that positive environmental effects can be achieved. Besides actually changing the molecular composition of an atmospheric region, a particular molecule or molecules can be chosen for increased presence. For example, ozone, nitrogen, etc. concentrations in the atmosphere could be artificially increased. Similarly, environmental enhancements could be achieved by causing the breakup of various chemical entities such as carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxides, and the like.
They can. Oh, sorry. Are you?
So that's the end of the quote from this book.
That's really incredible if they can reconfigure carbon dioxide, because that's an extremely stable molecule. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to convert that away from the form that it's in.
You mean like 1.79 gigawatts, like the HAARP has?
Yeah.
So what? Johnny, you're old enough to remember this back in the 90s when we were all worried about the ozone layer disappearing, right?
I remember that. Don't use the hairspray because it's going to make the ozone layer go away.
Right. So anyway, if you didn't particularly like somebody and you were able to destroy the ozone layer above their capital city and give everybody in the city cancer, that would be a pretty powerful non-lethal way of getting rid of somebody.
That's not a very discriminatory weapon.
That's less expensive than nukes and a little bit more subtle.
That's true. That is definitely true. So this
because if they could do that, they could probably just repair it afterward, right? I mean, if they can break it, they're at that level of atmospheric control. You do that, kill everyone in the city, or make them leave, and then fix it and move in.
Yeah, that's the atmospheric thermonuclear device sort of technology that they had out of that, right? That was just. Yeah, I mean, these are. The military actually owned up to to some of the things that it could do, like that. They had it. You could wipe out communications and keep in the military communications working. So, if you wanted to shut down, cell service and phones and internet and whatever, it could do that. It does tomography, right? Which is like scanning the earth under the earth, so you could find oil and gas and stuff. Those are all like military, things that the U.S. military said that the HAARP could do. So if they're admitting to that, I wonder what they're not admitting to that it can do.
Right. I mean, I can't remember if I brought this up prior to the show or not, but the reason people believe in conspiracies, we're going to talk about this later, but if the United States federal government is going to just stand by there and do nothing while 50 some odd million American citizens get aborted, you think that they wouldn't use it to enrich themselves by finding oil and getting a cut of it, or giving people in a certain state?
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course they would. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's one of the things they do is to get rich off the backs of people without telling them that they're getting rich off of us. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with conspiracy theories is you have to believe people always say, "Oh, they wouldn't do that to us. They wouldn't do that." Well, yeah, they would. They have been, and they count on you to say.
It's like, why wouldn't they?
They wouldn't do, right. If you have the technology and the ability and the ability to just deny it, like just boldly deny it, and most of the people believe you that there's no way it could happen. Wouldn't you? I mean, I would. No, maybe not.
Of course, somebody would. That's the thing.
Somebody
It doesn't matter if
somebody
you or I
would,
wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Somebody would.
I wonder who those somebodies are, and the somebodies that are doing this. The same somebodies.
God, I don't know.
I don't know who they could be.
Could be anybody.
But these things, I mean, like, you could technically, according to this, like with the tomography, and you could cause, if you focused it on a, what do you call it, on a fault line, you could cause an earthquake with this thing. Like, if you wanted to cause damage to an area or whatever, like militarily, you could just cause an earthquake, and maybe there's a crack under the ocean, and then there's a tsunami, and all of a sudden your whole country's wiped out because a giant wave hit you. Boop, there you go. And
one of the things they noticed after the really big earthquake up here in 1964 is that it disturbed the ionosphere really badly, and they were wondering if they could kind of like reverse that, like if it maybe causing disturbances, similar disturbances in the ionosphere might cause earthquakes. And I mean, goodness, Japan, that the Fukushima earthquake, like if you could do that to an enemy city,
yeah,
that's effectively nuking the place without like complete deniability. That's
totally true. Yep. I mean, and then with messing with the ionosphere, you can change weather patterns too, right? Like actual weather patterns. So if you wanted to maybe whip up a hurricane or something, you could charge the ionosphere the right way with this thing, and you could maybe make a hurricane appear, right? Is that something that has I'm saying, is that something that it has the ability to do?
Of course not, that Goyim. We have that.
Right.
It's just crazy talk.
Right. Well, I mean, there's because
I think like just considering how delicate like the balance in the environment is, a temporary like disruption like that, an earthquake or causing a hurricane or something like that, doesn't actually sound like it would be too difficult, because just like how balanced all the forces are in nature on Earth, like the amount of things that have to work together to create the livable environment on Earth. It seems like just knocking one of those dominoes out of place, even if there are like natural systems that would right the whole thing, kind of like homeostasis eventually. If you could selectively cause that sort of chaos, you could do tons of damage. And from that perspective, it doesn't even seem like it would be that difficult, as long as you had the you figured out how, and you had the resources to do it, which HAARP has developed a lot of really incredible things, and that's just the stuff that they talk about.
Right.
It doesn't seem far-fetched at all to me.
Right. So like there's the theories out there that they use the HAARP technology to create Katrina, the Hurricane Katrina, because that was a government deal to somehow wipe out all the then was it Katrina that went across the oil fields in Texas too and destroyed all that shit? Am I correct? Am I confusing two hurricanes?
No, it did.
Okay. Yeah.
Really damaged the.
I mean, I remember hearing the stories. Well, if you had a weather machine and you wanted to, affect the price of oil, why wouldn't you just take it all the way across all the oil fields and destroy all that stuff? So that way the United States has to buy more oil, and now, gas prices go up and there's more money out of your pockets. I mean, you have a weather machine that can do that. There's the theory that the hurricane that hit, oh shoot, I can't remember which island it was, but it was Indonesia or the Philippines, that it hit it once, and it turned around and came back the other way and hit it back the other way because it didn't get them good enough the first time, which scientists were like, that is the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened before. A tsunami's never reversed course like that and hit the exact same spot twice. They're saying that was the same weather control machine that controlled that too. That's, if they have a machine that controls the weather, if they have that it actually can mess with the ionosphere like that, why wouldn't they? I mean, this is a top secret military installation up in the middle of Alaska that literally nobody knows anything about, we can't, we it's like I said, shut down now, but like when it was running, we couldn't go up and walk around there and check it out. Uh-oh. Did I lose everybody on the call?
No, yeah, we're still here. But no, you're completely right, of course. I mean, like, you can't even make it onto the facility, it's protected by hundreds of miles of wilderness on three sides. There's one road there. Of course, there's a gigantic fence and armed guards and all that other stuff. You can't get in there and see anything. So there's all kinds of stuff that they could be getting up to without anybody seeing it. And so, like, another quote from the book here. The United States already had smaller antennae in several locations for experiments in bouncing radio waves off the ionosphere. With bigger tools than anyone else and the ability to focus its beam, the United States military could fry incoming missiles, disrupt global communications, change the chemical composition of the upper atmosphere, and even engineer weather by redirecting very high wind patterns, like jet streams. So, effectively, the ability to manipulate the ionosphere is really, really powerful when it has lots of effects that you could possibly do with it. And, maybe it's just an innocent science project. Maybe it's just the equivalent of Billy making his baking soda volcano. But maybe not. And that's the fact that it's in the middle of nowhere and the budget's very secret, and like the people who built it is APTI, like Arco Power. I can't remember the acronym. Anyway, it's a really small company that was a subsidiary of Arco, Atlantic Ridgefield Petroleum, and they had, like, when this all was built, they had like $5 million in revenues and like 25 employees. This is this tiny little company, but they owned this particular patent, this Eastland patent, and they got this huge job. And when you add all that together, it's a little suspicious,
Well, yeah, especially when like we just said, that this thing actually can do those things. And then we have these things happening. Some of the other things that they're saying that the HAARP project did was it was for mind control. Have you ever heard that?
That would be a really interesting one. Because trying to target a person would probably be, well, I don't know. Maybe it is easy, but the human brain, there's all sorts of different electrical frequencies and different wavelengths produced in your brain. So if you could just influence a large area to have certain ELFs which can interact with the brain, I don't know. Maybe you could cause certain personality traits to come out or be what's the word, expressed more strongly or something like that. I don't know. It's just things I'm speculating.
Well, there's the deal with the extra low frequency waves and mind control going together. I mean, people have been writing about that for a while. It's like people, You've heard stories about women manipulating and killing their children at the leading of God's voice in their head or whatever. You've heard people talking about they've heard God's voice in their head or what, different stories about that. Yeah. There's a theory that the HAARP uses the ELF to do mind control, and there's actually. Go ahead.
So I got another quote here. Of course, there's Operation. What was it? What was the name of the CIA program back in the?
Oh, MK Ultra. Right.
Yeah, the MK Ultra. I know you guys have done a show on that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a fellow by the name of Dr. Delgado. who was his research reviewed in the 60s. And they were talking about, let's see, let me find the quote here. A neurosurgeon, like Dr. Delgado, the neurosurgeon concluded that the ESV, electrical stimulation of the brain, could evoke hallucinations as well as fear and pleasure. It could literally then manipulate the human will at will. So, if you, again, oh, sorry, Johnny.
No, you go ahead. No, you were reading the quote. That was. And
so, if you think about it, I mean, if you make an entire city, you don't need to, let's say it's just January in Moscow and everyone's depressed and tired. It's freaking dark out. You haven't seen the sun in 6 weeks. If you just made everybody a little bit more depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Increase the suicide rate by say 1% or whatever. That would have been a powerful make Moscow 1% less efficient, 2% less efficient. When you're talking like a nuclear war, that can make a big difference. So,
right.
It doesn't have to be something as crazy as like makes everybody suicidal and kill themselves. It could just be like we make everybody feel bad and they're less effective at their jobs, and who knows? I mean, yeah, like again, we don't know because they won't tell us.
Yeah, and I imagine they could, like the leaps and bounds in technology they've made, if they could influence people's minds with ELFs, surely they would try and create some kind of instrument to do that on a more selective basis, where you don't have to go into the atmosphere, but I don't know, maybe like you could just park a van outside someone's house and have some kind of equipment in there, or something. I don't know. I mean, it could be anything.
Well, we know it works. I mean, I listen to 4 or 5 minutes of hip hop and I'm ready to kill somebody. So.
Yeah, there's got to be subliminal things going on there, and things that are going on with that. So the U.S. government actually patented some of the stuff. There's actual patents on silent subliminal presentation systems. It's U.S. patent 5159703. I'm not going to read all the numbers. I'm just telling you like that. These are legit patents. If you guys want to look them up, ask us, and I'll put it in the comments. But method and associated apparatus for remotely determining information as to a person's emotional state. Implantable transceivers, body-worn active and passive tracking devices, fenceless animal control systems using GPS, using location information. These are things they already have the patents for, and they've been they've had these patents for a few years. So silent subliminal presentation system. So there is some sort of ELF to subliminal thing going on with our government. Why would they have the patents on these things if they weren't going to use them?
I think what's really interesting is being able to read people's emotional state remotely. Mm-hmm. That would be, that would be really something. Imagine using that to find out the emotional state of, in a combat situation, an enemy, I don't know, officer or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you wouldn't need to know necessarily. If you're not sure if you're winning or not, well, just find out how the other people feel.
Right. Yeah. You could use it to bring your enemy's morale down. You could, if you could manipulate it properly, you could bring your own troops' morale up. And if it's,
I got a quote here from the book. So one of the things they talk about is cyclotron resonance, which is where you kind of make stuff more effective. So a smaller dose lithium is a more effective, it effectively makes the dose bigger than it would otherwise been, right? Makes it more effective. So Navy research showed that they were able to affect the lithium ion occurring naturally in the brain so as to create the same effect as if they had treated a rat with a chemical introduction of lithium, which is used as a strong antidepressant. Stated another way, you could say that by harmonizing or resonating with the frequency of naturally occurring chemicals, you could amplify their potency in the body of the animal, thereby creating the same chemical changes as would have occurred with massive dose of the chemical being administered. One military application of this knowledge would be the introduction or to introduce adversaries on the battlefield a minute amount of chemical compound in their water supply, air supply, or by other means, and then, after they consume the contaminants, transmit the right frequencies towards them to activate the otherwise benign chemicals. It would cause debilitating effects. The chemical introductions would be below generally accepted levels for toxic effects, yet toxic effects would occur. This is in a way a country could slide around international agreements regarding chemical warfare. The techniques had not been lost on the military. It is clearly understood and described in Air Force documents. These documents offer a clear example of the electrical medicine predicted by Dr. Patrick Flanagan in September 1962. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these are not new things. These are all stuff, this is all stuff in the mid-60s or the 50s or, even, like this is not cutting-edge technology. They've been talking about this stuff for years. So I have a hard time believing that they, haven't done anything with any of this stuff. Considering it's 40 years old or 50 years old or 60 years old.
Right. So they've had this for a while. I mean, like you can look at the HAARP technology, and it's nothing like super space age looking or anything. It just looks like a giant. It just looks like a giant, antenna array. That's really all it is. But they have it set up to where it can do all kinds of interesting things, including changing your mood apparently, and hurricanes and earthquakes. That's crazy. And we funded it. The taxpayers, we paid for this. We actually paid for this stuff. Interesting. What else you guys want to talk about HAARP while we're still on this side of the HAARP thing? And
I don't know. It's like it's tough just because of how secretive it is. And they'll sort of feign openness and transparency by showcasing the benign results of their research. So there's just a lot of speculative ground to be had here because of the broad range of possibilities. Makes it difficult to even know where to start. I mean, it'd be nice if Alex Jones could do like he, broke into the Bohemian Grove and just go up to HAARP, run around avenging the frogs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, HAARP, it's there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of secrecy to it. But there was a lot of things that, that we do know that it did.
Like one of the things about it, right? I mean, like hundreds of millions of dollars, all this secrecy, all because pretty lights in the sky that Japanese tourists want to see. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Really? The Department of the Defense is interested because, because Japanese tourists like it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right. So, HAARP's an interesting thing. If you guys out there know anything else about HAARP, if you've seen the documentary Angels Don't Play This HAARP, or if you read the book or whatever, you got some stuff you want to talk about, hit us up in the comments, dude. I know that the possibilities, the possibilities of what this thing could do and are ridiculous, and what they did do, are interesting as well. Well, actually, speaking of that real quick, you guys know who Zbigniew Brzezinski is, right? He was big player in the Democratic National with the Democrats a while back, and I believe he was Secretary of State under Nixon, Johnson.
He was Carter's National Security Advisor.
Carter's National Security Advisor. There we go. I was way off.
His daughter is Mika Brzezinski, who's on Morning Joe, the bottle blonde dumbass who's on MSNBC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's his daughter.
Brzezinski.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he said
totally 100% merit there.
Right. Yeah. What he said was political strategists are tempted to exploit research on the brain and human behavior. Geophysicist Gordon J.F. McDonald, a specialist in problems of warfare, says, is somebody loading a gun? Did we get hijacked? What's going on here?
That's not a water bottle. It crinkled.
Oh, that's not part of the quote, though. All right. A specialist in problems of warfare says accurately timed, artificially excited electronic strokes could lead to a pattern of oscillations that produce relatively high power levels over certain regions of the Earth. In this way, one could develop a system that would seriously impair brain performance of a large populations in selected regions over an extended period. No matter how deeply disturbing the thought of using the environment to manipulate behavior for national advantages, to some, the technology permitting such use will vary, probably develop within the next few decades. And this was 25 years ago, actually like 35 years ago now. And this is Brzezinski talking about making a mind control device back in, 80 something? 80, yeah, 80. And now we have this thing. So these are big players in that had big ideas, and there it is. And guess they ran out of funding, so they can't control our minds anymore, or can they? Anyways, there was something else we were going to talk about. We got into it a little bit at the beginning. It's another, I like to call it's like an open conspiracy, and that is the conspiracy of population control and how they're doing it and why they're doing it and whatever. And we will get to that on the other side of the break. We're going to listen to a little bit of music, and Adam and I will be back with Dark Enlightenment in just a few. This is Blink 1488 with We Are the Alt-Right.
We've been working on culture that'll help us strike down these vultures, and I won't rest till the job is done. It's all or none. Let's take it on. Alright, you know the truth. I like this alright. My love is you. We are the alright. 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 This culture war, it's common sense versus insanity that persists, and now we must focus on the largest threat, the final step. Our life, we are the alright. You know the truth. Unlike this alright. My love is you. We are the alright. Alright. Alright.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
All right, everybody. We are back. This is the Paranormies presents the Ahnenerbe Hour. I'm still Johnny Monoxide, along with Adam Haidt and Dark Enlightenment. We're going to talk about things that turn the frogs gay and population control. What do you guys think about that?
Sounds gay.
So you might want to cue the Vivaldi there, Johnny, because I gotta get a little bit spurgy on you here. But it is an open conspiracy that thank you for the proper accompaniment. But it goes back about 100 years now, and there used to be called Comstock laws that were basically laws against purchasing contraception that were a fellow by the name of, I think, Anthony Comstock have kind of went on a crusade to like get all this stuff outlawed. Anyway, in 1930 at the Lambeth Conference in England, the Anglicans approved of contraception for the first time, because like prior to this there was no Christian denomination and no like government in the world approved of contraception at all. Like not even that, like we're not talking like abortion or anything, we're talking purely like condoms were like illegal. And that kind of burst the dam. Like shortly thereafter, the different Protestant denominations all approved of it, and they all changed their mind, as it were. And what happened was, as a result of this, the populations of Catholics versus the Protestant majority started to skew. And by the 1940s, even, the major cities of America were largely Catholic. And so there's a pretty good book by a woke Catholic guy by the name of E. Michael Jones. I think we've talked about him in the past, called Slaughter the Cities. And it's like ethnic cleansing as social policy. And Satan people didn't like all the Catholics in Philadelphia and Boston and
interesting.
Chicago.
That's interesting that certain people, huh?
And liberals. So quick, it's basically Christians and Jews who got together. It got together and busted up the neighborhoods in these Catholic cities, and imported a lot of blacks. And so they had to.
What a fucking surprise!
Anyway, yeah. What happened is when you're living in a functional community where 3 or 4 kids was the norm, or maybe even 4 or 5, out to the burbs, more expensive. You weren't in a neighborhood. It was to raise kids. You didn't have a lot of neighbors. People just had less kids. So that was one thing. And and this is all explained in Jones's book. And he's got great stuff on Satan people as well. But it really comes down to the Rockefellers and all the big foundations. They're huge into population control. You guys have probably heard of the Paul Ehrlich population bomb thing. Have you guys heard of this? This bet with Julian Simon?
Tom Ehrlich? Is that his name you said?
No. Not Tom Ehrlich. Julian Simon and Paul Ehrlich.
Oh, Paul Ehrlich and Julian Simon. Okay.
Erlich. So Ehrlich is this guy in 1968 who was like wrote a book called like The Population Bomb, and he was gonna talk about he made a bet with Julian Simon, this economist, that like everything was going to be more expensive. They were going to run out of food, run out of water, run out of this, run out of that, run out of everything. And like in the year 2000, like everything. And of course, he was wrong about all this stuff. And
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, so stuff wasn't cheaper, and so and then of course in 1973 we talked about this a little bit, but there was Roe v. Wade, and that you got to understand that in the cultural context at the time, like a big part of what made it acceptable for abortion was like this fear of overpopulation, right?
Which is ironic, considering that it's like white cat ladies that are obsessed with abortion, and whites are a global minority. Like white people will never overpopulate. Right.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in just a second. It's not a coincidence, as to why all that is. But the thing about after after Roe v. Wade, right, the biggest event in Washington every year, there might be exceptions this year because of the inauguration and stuff, is the March for Life, and it's been going on for 40 years straight. Every the weekend in January closest to when the decision was handed down, and the media doesn't cover it at all. And the reason the media doesn't cover it, I have a few quotes here. This is Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Quote, frankly, I had thought that at the time the Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, pardon me. Matthew Iglesias, the shit-lib behind Fox.
Oosh. Matty Iglesias. I hate that guy.
Oh, yeah, I hate that guy. I wish he'd been polar bear hunted just a little bit harder. But he was, got complete. Here's back in the debate over Obamacare. He wrote in Slate, the case for death panels in one chart. Quote, but not only is this healthcare spending and the elderly the key issue in the federal budget, our disproportionate allocation of healthcare dollars to old people surely accounts for a remarkable lack of apparent cost effectiveness of the American healthcare system. When the patient is already over 80, the simple fact of the matter is that no amount of treatment is going to work miracles in terms of life expectancy or quality of life. Let's see. HBO personality Bill Maher. I'm pro-choice. I'm for assisted suicide. I'm for regular suicide. I'm for whatever gets the freeway moving. That's what I'm for. It's too crowded. The planet is too crowded, and we need to promote death. So David Rockefeller was the Rockefeller brothers were big proponents of population control.
The Rockefellers funded a lot of things that yeah.
Right. So said, quote, the negative impact of population growth on all our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident. Ted Turner, a total world population of 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline from present levels would be ideal. So one of the things about, since 1973, right, and abortion and contraception being widely available is that only people who are smart enough to have money and be responsible are the ones who take advantage of it. So, it's the white girl in college is the one who makes sure that she takes her contraceptive pill every day. And ordinary, via lots of other reasons, families are too expensive for ordinary white people to have, or having 3 kids or 4 kids is too expensive. So they have one because, public schools are terrible. And there's all this confluence of things that make life more difficult for ordinary people. As an ordinary dude in the Bay Area, Johnny, I'm sure you could tell some stories.
Oh,
but
what?
At the same time,
cat ladies and stuff, or the people not able to afford families.
How expensive it is to be a normal dude in the Bay Area.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't send your kids to the public school because they'll get mugged.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go to public school. The schools are horrible. You got whenever it rains, you have all the entire homeless population inside public transportation. You've got it's just disgusting. It's like a lot of places here are really disgusting and dangerous. And everything's ridiculously expensive.
Right. So all of these things are completely unusable. And so the Gates Foundation, for instance, really big on malaria. They want to prevent malaria, and there's some pretty hilarious articles about people using the malaria nets to catch little tiny fish and destroy their ecosystems. I mean, Africans, you can have African elephants, but you can't have both. Rhinos are getting extinct. Anyway.
That's because of hunting, Goy. Yeah. That's why. It's from hunting.
Oh, yeah. That's hunting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Gates, hasn't the Gates Foundation basically financed the most abortions in the history of the world, more or less?
They might have. They're very big into it. But the weird thing, right, is that they'll do all this stuff to increase the population in the third world, provide vaccines and do all this other stuff, and then say, but we have to increase this population, and we have to stop disease, which is nature's way of but we'll totally fund lots of abortions.
Right. Well, you got to keep that mass of refugees flooding out of Africa, don't you? There, Oosh, I hadn't thought about it like that. But the Rockefeller Foundation, he said Rockefeller funded a lot of population control stuff. The Rockefeller Foundation, excuse me, not one specific Rockefeller, but they actually they've actually said themselves that they fund research projects into the development of anti-fertility vaccines going back to like 1968. So the Rockefeller family has been, wanting to bring the population down. But the thing is who gets these anti-fertility or these anti-fertility vaccines and techniques and whatever? It seems to be mostly, it's white countries, and because they're helping the black countries and the brown countries by giving them, the vaccines to make them survive, the the actual evolution, I guess it would be, right? If you live in Africa and you die all the time because that's where you live, that's evolution, right? I mean, that's survival of the fittest. And go.
All right. So in the Rockefellers in the 60s had, Henry Kissinger was a protege of theirs. They were buddies with James Earl Carter, George H.W. Bush, Paul Volcker, all on the same in founding members of the 1973 Trilateral Commission that the Rockefellers helped set up. The Brzezinski, whose daughter is Mika Brzezinski, the journalist at MSNBC, said, quote, "Society would be dominated by an elite, which would not hesitate to achieve its political ends by using the latest modern techniques for influencing public behavior and keeping society under close surveillance and control." So what they've done...
So which Brzezinski was this? Could you just a quick recap of who said that?
That was Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was Carter's NSA guy, but also the head of the Trilateral Commission and all.
Right. He's also the guy.
This guy's not small potatoes.
No, he's not. And
he also, we said last hour that he was the guy that said they could use HAARP to do subliminal things to people. So this is the same guy. So two different things.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, same players all around. What a coincidence.
Coincidence. Yes. Coincidence. So this is from the Rockefellers, Rockefeller100.org. This is what they published. Issues of family planning and concerns over population growth have long interested the Rockefeller family, and their philanthropies. A variety of projects relating to these interests have received Rockefeller support over the past century. There's a picture of a family planning consultant in Taiwan explaining the small sperm Tai Ching sin in 1964. A controversial cause. Concern with family planning was among the Rockefeller philanthropies began with John D. Rockefeller Jr., who developed an interest through his involvement with the Bureau of Social Hygiene. John Rockefeller Jr. hoped that support for family planning initiatives would help solve pervasive social ills, including poverty and crime. In addition to funding the BSH, Rockefeller also contributed privately to causes that the BHH was unable or unwilling to support, following a request by Margaret Sanger's American Birth Control League for $10,000 to fund research into contraceptive methods. Rockefeller Foundation trustee Raymond Fosdick expressed his thoughts in the importance of the proposed research. Quote, "Personally, I believe that the problem of population constitutes the one great perils of the future, and something is not done along the lines of these people are suggesting. We shall hand down our children a world which the scramble for food and the means of subsistence will be far more bitter than anything we know at present." Unquote. Fosdick later went on to acknowledge the delicate nature of birth control. A few days later, Rockefeller authorized an anonymous donation to Sanger's cause, confronting population growth. Perhaps inspired by his father's example, population growth was an issue of particular interest in John D. Rockefeller III. In the 1940s, an increasing global population coincided with a growing public awareness of limited global resources. Moreover, population growth was in part the result of success of modern public health initiatives, many of which had been supported by the Rockefeller Foundation. John G. Rockefeller III's support for family planning was more public than his father's. He made his interest in the issue clear to the Rockefeller Foundation trustees, and he pressured them to act more definitively on popular birth control issues. At his urging, a demographic survey of the Far East was organized in 1948. The subsequent report, Public Health and Demography in the Far East, noted that the high rates of population growth in the region, as well as the need for efforts of fertility control, education, and agriculture development. And then they founded Population Control Incorporated. I mean,
they founded a company called Population Control Incorporated?
Population Council Incorporated.
Population Council Incorporated. Okay. That's less. Yeah, that's less like sinister sounding. But
in June 1952.
So these are
Go ahead, Johnny.
No, I was saying, so these are the Rockefellers that are doing this.
Yes, this is the
Right.
Rockefellers.
Right, these are the
And
Rockefellers.
Some of the most powerful people in the West.
Yeah.
They own what?
And,
So Rockefellers are Standard Oil or Chase Bank? I can't remember
Yeah.
off the top of my head. Standard Oil, right?
One of those. Yeah. And of course, they're mixed up all over with Paul Ehrlich and TV and certain people. And thirdworldtraveler.com is a website from The Hidden Agenda of Genetic Manipulation by F. William Engdahl, Global Research 2007. So a website that has got a lot of more of this stuff and kind of ties these together, how they were in with Brzezinski and all these other people. But as I said, right, the Rockefellers have done all this public health stuff. The Gateses are doing all this public health stuff that wildly increases the population, right? I mean, like if you give fertilizer to people who don't know how to farm and all of a sudden their crops explode by, five times more productive, they're going to have times more kids. They're not going to save any of that stuff. And so populations of India and China and Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
So like, people in our circles talk about this all the time. In 1915, Europeans were 30% of the world population. Now we're not even 10. Well, partly that's we stopped having kids because everything's so expensive, and part of it is that
That's true.
That Africans had 6 kids, and instead of all 5 of them starving to death, they didn't starve to death anymore.
Right.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of the things that we talked about in the group was this some white dude, of course, invented this like rollable barrel with a handle, like extremely simple. It's basically just a barrel that you can like pull behind you to fill with water. And this African farmer, like probably one of the ones, that's got like a 90 IQ instead of a 70, really, really smart dude down in Africa. He just owned a chicken farm. And so he used this technology to get more water to his chickens. And it was, what they were interviewing him like, oh, now that you've got this, great thing, like how cool is that? And all he said was like, yeah, now I can have more chickens. Like they don't think about like saving or trying to, build up more future. Like it was such a simple conclusion for this new technology that he got. It was like, well, okay, now I have more chickens. Like that's as far as they can think.
Right. And I mean, you're problematic, Adam. You ask questions and you ask like, well, wait a minute, why does the Rockefeller Foundation trying to make it so I can't have kids and my commute's expensive, and why are they funding this and funding that? And you like read and look stuff up for yourself and think for yourself and do you do all that. You're a paranoid nut job, right?
Paranormy nut job, yeah.
That's right. Around here, we're paranormies.
You're not gonna go quietly. You're gonna ask questions. Whereas that guy is just like, hey, more chickens, and his vote counts just as much as yours. If you're
right.
And so
if we could get back to one thing real quick, Adam, you called the bucket on a handle technology, but I mean,
yeah. Well, that to him that was like a revolution. That instead of carrying a bucket, he just rolls a barrel. An animal to do it. He does it himself. Right.
Yeah. So this population control deal with the Rockefellers using different sort of things. Like, what is your take on what you think that was set up to actually do as far as control the population? Like, was that set up specifically to eliminate the European people? Because like it seems that the only countries that are having these issues are white countries.
I think it is because, like concern about the environment, right? Like, oh gosh, well, if you gaslight all these kids, with the global warming and the polar bears and the this and the that, like if you have kids, you're killing Fluffy.
Yeah. Do we still believe that polar bears can't swim because Al Gore said so in that movie? Or we
right? We're supposed to be like 6. Like San Francisco is supposed to be underwater by now. I mean, like
right.
I remember when I was
right. According to that thing, the water's going to be rising, and everybody's going to drown.
Right.
No.
Well, if San Francisco got flooded, I guess it would be the water turning gay, huh?
Ooh, that was really, really good, and I can't believe I didn't even think of that one. That was good, Adam. All right.
So, well,
But now, speaking of gay,
Might
now
not-
hold on. Speaking of gay, now, do you think that the gay thing has anything to do with population control?
Oh yeah, well, the Turn of the Frogs gay, when you normalize every woman being on contraception, and then they've actually done studies of this, and like their entire ponds of all the frogs are female, or hermaphrodite, or the testes on the male frogs are like half or less the size of the 2 generations ago. That it's having really major effects on fish and other life.
Including people. I mean, you've got, what is it? I forgot what area it is in Michigan. One of the lakes up there. The drinking water has so much estrogen because I guess it's basically just recycled. Like, I don't know, something about the birth control goes into the drinking water because women pee.
Yeah.
They're just pissing out all this birth control into the water that ends up in the environment, and it doesn't just affect the frogs, it affects the people. There was even a study done in Canada. There was an article called The Mysterious Disappearing Male, I believe it was called, and it might even have been a documentary, but it was done by the BBC Canada, and they're talking about how there's entire areas where boys aren't being born as much, girls are being born at like a 4-to-1 ratio, and boys are actually being born with like deformities and in their reproductive organs, and actually being born sterile. And they think that has a lot to do with a lot of the estrogens that are. I'm sorry, what?
I mean, I can't prove it, but I guarantee you. I mean, I would bet the rent money, the whole tranny thing is partly a consequence of this stuff. I mean, like, there's
there's that, and like the increased amount of like soy in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Paranormies, I don't eat salmon anymore because I don't want to get mad fish disease.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink
soy
IPAs
lecithin
anymore because of the
phytoestrogens
you're right.
that give you man boobs. Besides that, I mean, we don't need estrogens. That's why all these faggy hipsters drink IPAs. It helps keep them faggy. So if you're listening and you drink IPAs, switch over to a lager or something, because IPAs will not only give you man boobs, it'll make you a girly man. But no, but seriously, like, we have that. There was like the deal with the bisphenol acid, which the BPA's in the plastic. And then there's, I mean, these things get into a woman's body when she's pregnant, and you're giving, pumping all these phytoestrogens and chemicals and birth control. This woman's been on birth control. She's 29 years old having her first baby. She's been on birth control since she was 16 years old because God knows high school kids need to fuck. But anyways, so she's been on birth control for 12 years, and all of a sudden she's going to have a baby. All that residual stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure that much birth control is going to take a while to completely get out of your system to not affect the child. So what kind of birth defects and like things, I mean, like, are we causing this rampant rise of kids that are gay, or is that just faggotry in general? Like, effeminate men.
Well, I don't know, but Johnny, I mean, you and I are both in our mid-30s, and Adam is an honorable exception, but I can't even tell if like a kid in his early 20s is straight or not anymore. Because they all talk like fags and their shit's all retarded. Mm-hmm. And like they all sound gay. It's not even a joke. Lisp. They have this soft features. They have this. They all talk like they're gay. I mean, it's not even. I'm not like this. I don't have the super impressive beard like you do. I'm not talking to like a. I'm not trying to.
Well, that's the thing though. Is a lot of these guys do. A lot of these effeminate guys have beards. So is it that's another thing that really blows me away. I'll see a guy who's got like a beard that's like, I'm like, oh, that's the guy who grow a decent beard, and he'll start talking and he just sounds like a fruit, like what the how?
Well, I mean, are we talking like Michelle Obama type beard, or like
no, they grow a beard like mine. Like, everybody knows Johnny Monoxide grows a beard. Even though I've recently gotten rid of it and we're starting over. But yeah, my beard is like, one of those impressive fucking lumberjack looking beards. I see these guys in their skinny jeans riding their fixie bikes, and they talk like homosexuals, and I would bet that every single one of them is almost like that. And I want to say that that's got to be from all the stuff we've been pumping into the water and into the women and all this. I mean, the women are who make the babies. Guys just participate. We we drop off the stuff, and then the women does all the manufacturing on the inside. Because we haven't been able to completely outsource that yet.
Well, and not only so we've made them. I mean, like you guys have. I mean, we might not be as big as fans of this stuff, but like we all know that what game is and that it works and it's real, right? I mean, again, you don't need to nudge people too much to make huge effects, right? And like if you just dissuade 10% of the women from reproducing because all the guys are fucking faggy, it makes a huge difference in the population. They're just not attractive because they're not masculine enough. And,
yeah, there's that, and then you can just dissuade women from having babies just by saying babies are icky and babies are poop factories and whatever. And there's a lot of girls like, ooh. There's a meme I saw the other day, and it's like, your grandparents had 6, or your grandparents had 7 kids. Your parents, your great grandparents had 8 kids. Your grandparents had 4 kids. Your parents had 2 kids, and you have a dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's the whole fur baby thing is just unbelievable.
Oven. That drives me crazy. Like if I think
there's people that'll never have kids that I'll have a cat. When you die, those cats are gonna eat you. Your dog is gonna eat you when he's starving. After you die in your apartment, your dog's not going to be able to take you to the hospital. Your dog's not going to be able to put you in a or take care of you if your kids don't, your shitty kid doesn't drop you in a nursing home, but where you're going to be taken care of. If you don't have kids, you're going to put yourself in a nursing home and be taken care of by foreigners who don't give a shit about you. But having kids, at least your kids could at least come visit you or take care of you or something. Your cats will eat you,
or maybe. I have this crazy idea, Johnny. Maybe you could go back to having 4 kids, and then your 4 kids could split the load of have taking care of mom and dad, and it wouldn't be overwhelming for one kid, and then you could possibly die at home surrounded by a loving family and grandchildren, like every other human being on the face of the planet prior to yesterday.
Right.
Yeah,
the family's been completely destroyed, and now they're destroying the individuals. They had to break it down from the big clan down to the individual family, and the split family into the no family.
Well, while we're on the subject, we're a conspiracy show, and I just want to make it clear that it doesn't have to be a Protocols of the Elders of Zion style conspiracy. I think Mike called it the Machiavellian conspiracy, where it's not a shady boardroom that's filled with smoke of rabbis planning all this shit. It's just you make the culture in 1,000 different ways. Anti-family, you make it pro-abortion, you make it pro-contraception, you do all these things that each little bit adds up to have this devastating effect on the nuclear family, on traditional family structures, on culture.
Well,
and all
you
this
say,
stuff.
Adam, you say that. That there aren't rooms for these people. But we don't know that there's
we
not.
talk about the Rockefellers and stuff, but it's not you take the Gates Foundation, it does Bill Gates rub his hands and plan we're going to commit the white genocide. White genocide is ongoing, but it's just important.
I don't think that they don't at some point. I mean, these people worship Moloch, and they do things with babies and stuff, and these are always the same people that are caught up in the Pizzagate scandals or the missing children scandals, or this kind of stuff and whatever. So
cover up,
right? Well,
the Franklin cover up.
I just want to say it doesn't have to be that. Devastating effects can take place as a broad spectrum of different things that even one part of it, there's still 99 other things screwing people over. And I just wanted to emphasize that it's huge, the spectrum of
this thing that they've got us in.
This open conspiracy that they talk about. So to get back to that for just a second, right? I mean, you guys have all seen it. It happens every time. Right? White girls have been told, hey, it's tough being a single mom, and it's bad, and you don't want to do it, So if you use, make sure you take contraception, and failing that, make sure that you got enough money for an abortion, and and most of the time that works out. Like most white people have the $500 that they need to get an abortion, if that's comes down to it.
No. For fuck's sake.
Having kids is undesirable. Those are most effective on the most responsible people, the people capable of like actually questioning, why are the Rockefellers and the Gateses and the Zbigniew Brzezinskis and certain bankers all against me having a healthy family? Why is that a problem? But the people who are not capable of making those kinds of decisions and being responsible with reproduction are having tons of kids because they're being subsidized. Their consumption's being subsidized. Like they don't got to struggle for food. It's delivered to them via airplane from the United States. And, the refugee camp in Kenya is getting, tons of rice every week from you and me, the taxpayer. The wealth, the EBT card is full, and you can have as many kids as you want if you're irresponsible and live in the ghetto. If you live in Oakland and are an idiot, you can have as many kids as you want.
Oh yeah, with as many dads as you want, and collect all the EBT that you can get.
Right, and so it's not even so much a like we're trying to eliminate people. Okay, I mean they might do that. I mean Ted Turner openly said, we need to eliminate like 90% of the human race. But failing that, because you have to have people to carry out your orders, and they're not going to actually get their hands dirty themselves. Failing that, though, having a population that's easily duped and doesn't ask questions beats the hell out of actually having a population of people who don't need, who are ornery, ask questions, smart enough to do stuff for themselves. And another big thing that you kind of talk about this, like big government loves, or the big corporate loves big government, right? Because if you have a healthy family, you don't really need the state much, right? I mean, like it's when you have a messed up family and you don't have, like, you need Medicaid or Medicare when you don't have kids you can stay with. You need nursing homes and all this other stuff. So they're effectively creating clients for themselves when they screw up families and import dysfunction, right? Because like if every white person had a healthy family, we wouldn't need a huge government. We'd take care of it ourselves. There was a problem on our street, and Johnny and I were neighbors. Johnny and I would get together with 4 or 5 other dads. Be like, hey, this is a problem. We need to fix this. We get together on a Saturday and we take care of it, and then it wouldn't be a problem. But because we don't have healthy families, and there's the single mom down the street who's like, well, I don't think that this is a problem, or I think that I should be able to, whatever problem it is, we have to have the state step in and take care of it. So you got to pay higher taxes because all this stuff costs more money. And, the every dollar out of your pocket in taxes is a dollar that's not going towards, your own family. And it's not necessarily like certain people meeting in back robes, but that certainly does happen. But there's all of these things that work together to effectively, kind of replace us. And that's why people are pissed. I mean, I think that most people probably would have been okay with being replaced if things worked still. But obviously they don't. I mean, you can't replace a bunch of Germans with a bunch of Mexicans and expect things to work the same. And that's what happened in, the places that voted for Trump. It was, wait a minute, we were told that this was all going to work the same and everything would be, and the streets would still get, taken care of, and there'd be people to help take care of me when I'm old and all this other stuff, and things would work, but it didn't.
And,
no, you're absolutely right. That's it's really just incredible the effect that they've had. And you're right. Like I was just thinking now, after you guys explained all this stuff, like if we're smart enough to notice that this 1,000 cuts, sort of strategy is working, then the backroom, moichants, obviously they know what's going on because they're fucking doing it and they see that it works. So of course they're going to promote it.
Right. And they're going to keep promoting it and keep promoting it and promote it in different ways. They're going to promote it on TV. They're going to promote it at school. They're going to promote it everywhere. That's what they do. They promote their agenda. What were you going to say there?
I was going to say I'm interested in your take, because you're in the belly of the beast there. I mean, San Francisco is where ovaries go to die.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, a lot of. Well, the thing is where I work with guys that have kids, and I work with guys that don't have kids. Some guys are like, yeah, I don't want to have a kid. I'm 35. I don't want to get married, whatever. I already had a vasectomy. I know 6 or 7 guys that are under the age of 40, never been married, and have vasectomies just so they can, do their deal. Like, they have no intention of passing on any of their genetics, which is probably a good thing in some cases, but sometimes it's like, dude, that's bad. I know
even like smart people get caught up in the bullshit.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that any of these guys are smart. One of them, I'm actually like, that was probably a very, very, very good idea. You're borderline retarded. He's a white guy, but he's borderline retarded. But and I don't mean that in like a joking way. He's literally one crayon off of a full box. Like, but so him having kids probably would have been a bad thing. But yeah, you see on the cat lady epidemic, holy shit, the feminists and these chicks they won't have kids, or they're just corporate until they're in their 40s, and then it's too late to have kids. I see a lot of that in like the financial district in San Francisco, where there's these, really what would be high value women, like the genetics, they're pretty, they have good, they have good bone structure or whatever, and they seem to have ambition and whatever, which is a good thing, but they're having a job, they're doing their career until they're, until what a career is more important. And then you have just the feminazis who, my patriarchy and shit, and smear, do protests where they, smear fake blood on them while they're marching down the street with shit painted on them while they're wearing a vagina on their head. No normal dude is going to want to have a relationship or a kid with that anyways, and probably can't, some of these chicks, with all the birth control and all the times they've been, God, it's disgusting, man. I don't want to get into that. But yeah, so yeah, no, it's bad out here too. There's not a lot of kids being born in the white part of this area, but there's always a lot of Latinos that have 3, 4, and 5 kids. A lot of single moms of color with 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. It's kind of disheartening, actually. So,
and it is disheartening, and it's triggering, and it makes me want to read. But the thing that we need to keep in mind here, right, is that we're making America great again. Mm-hmm. And that is like decent, hardworking people having kids.
What we need to do, I think, is we need to go back to I hate to say this because this is the worst. This is one of the worst governments in the world. But Stalin had a plan when he first came into power. The Russians were the population was so low that he actually encouraged women to have children. He made like special titles and things and awards for women who had a lot of kids, and had a low procreation tax. So they made it so that if you didn't have kids, you would pay more in taxes. And that actually worked for a while. And they actually had to eventually get rid of it because people were having, too many kids. And they needed to cut back on it. So they're like, all right, you guys can slow down having the kids. So, we won't tax you as much anymore. And I believe Putin actually was thinking recently that they would set that up again. But they weren't sure. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I read that part. But I know that, yeah, Joseph Stalin, his birth rate exceeded the government's initial expectations. So they got rid of the tax. Interesting. Well, yeah, they were going to bring the tax. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mic cook you. 1 second. I found the date. Sorry, bro. So the idea of bringing back the tax was 2006. So yeah, they were talking about it back then. Okay, my bad. Go ahead, dude.
Like Hitler did the same thing. I mean, with the cross of the German mother, and if you had 8 kids, it was the equivalent of his, when he won the Iron Cross for being gassed. And this is before antibiotics and before, this is women's in childbirth fairly routinely in the 1930s and 40s. He made it so that if you had, I think it was 8, I've heard 8 and 10, you basically gave moms the Medal of Honor for having 8 kids.
Dude, if you have 8 or 10 kids, you deserve the Medal of Honor. Honestly, that is awesome. And at the same time, you have 8 kids to deal with. Holy cow.
I mean,
they didn't have the culture of contraception and the culture of fucking bullshit.
Oh, they did though. But they did though. They totally had the culture of contraception. They,
well, like Weimar, like that was combated by the government. Am I
right?
wrong? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. No. When they finally, when Germany finally decided to get rid of that, like they had contraception and abortion and all that stuff, but you could even get executed for having abortions once they changed the reproductive laws. They say that basically they bullied women into having babies with the way that they did it. Like there was no way they completely outlawed contraception, and I believe abortions were they legal at all, or were they like completely illegal unless like the mom was dying or something like that? I don't even remember.
I think that if you were a German and like in a doctor and you procured an abortion for a German woman, you'd be executed.
Yeah,
I don't remember the exact, but I guess this all just goes to show you that it's all about incentives, and that our problem is that we've basically stacked the deck against normal people having kids, and this is partly because if you don't have kids, you do the consumer thing, and you don't, like, if you have kids, you spend time with your families and you don't watch as much TV or whatever. You're busy living your life. But those incentives, they're not inevitable. It's not baked into the cake that the entire world is going to be taken over by people from Africa, and it's not baked into the cake that the United States is going to be North Mexico, and it's not baked into the cake that Europe is going to be overrun by Arabs. It's possible for us to have a society where people have kids again, and it's not that hard. If you just stopped taxing working dads and started taxing people, or stopped subsidizing people who are irresponsible, you'd see it all reverse overnight. I mean, you'd hear a whole lot of complaining.
I mean, from the executive orders that Trump has put out, I mean, he's already going hard on the shit that he promised. And this is not even 6 days, not even a week into the MAGA administration. I mean, there's, that's a good white pill. That's a white pill to swallow.
Wait, what did he sign something? Did he sign something to help the white birth rate?
Well, not specifically like this, but just relooking at immigration from different countries, looking at trying to immigrate from white countries, looking at deporting illegals, that finally cracking down. Like, I'm sure you guys saw the video of those Portland anarchists with the police, where they just walked up and just started
the cops finally just BTFO'd Antifa.
Just beating the fuck out of these people, arresting them. I mean, it was glorious.
And the citizens on the sidewalk were thanking the police for doing their jobs, finally, which was great. All right, well,
specifically with abortion. So Trump, I mean, I know people in the pro-life community were pretty skeptical about Trump, given his past and stuff, but he reinstituted the Mexico City policy, which is like, hey, to fund abortions overseas, which, whatever you think of it, I think is like, why are we spending money on this stuff when we're, umpty?
Yeah, I mean, why are we paying for other countries' women to have their abortions? We don't need to be paying for that. There's a lot of things we don't need to be paying for. Yeah,
if that's but I think that the Planned Parenthood people were huge behind this whole march this past weekend. The March for Women, right? I mean, it was basically like cat ladies in Planned Parenthood hoe bags and like dried up old sluts like Madonna and what's Ashley Judd. I mean, these are Planned Parenthood people, and it doesn't really matter whether you think Trump is pro-life or not. He's just going to look at these people and go, every dollar that gets spent for Planned Parenthood is money for these people, which means I'm not going to freaking approve it because it's going to my enemies, and screw them. It doesn't, if he's sincerely pro-life or not, it doesn't matter. He's going to cut Planned Parenthood funding because they're his enemies and they deserve to be treated like it. And frankly, I think that they should be kicked while they're down, and they should have their funding taken, because they're horrible people and they're shitlibs and they deserve it. And whether or not that causes a population explosion or people have to be more responsible or what have you, it's less money being taken out of Johnny's pocket and my pocket and Adam's pocket to subsidize irresponsible people, and that's good. It's
absolutely.
And that's the thing about this whole population control thing. Is all have essentially set up a system where normal white guys can't have or find it extremely difficult to have families.
Right.
And all those incentives have worked. And there's certain conspiracies that are, like the closed doors, smoke-filled room type thing. And there's just lots of things where the incentives have been set up that way. And they're losing because their replacements for us don't make the system work as well as we do. They can't. It's impossible. I mean, Johnny, you've talked about Section 8 before and like what happens to a house.
Oh God, right? Section 8 is one of the worst things ever. You can give them a brand new. I mean, I moved into an apartment building. It had just been recently opened, so it was brand new. Nobody had ever lived there. Like brand new. This was 2003. 2005. Sorry, 2005. Brand new apartment. No one had ever lived there. Well, they weren't renting fast enough, so they decided to add 10% Section 8. Within 2 months, there was graffiti. There had been repeated fire alarms being pulled for no reason. There was benches destroyed. There was people's cars getting broken into. None of this had happened before. And then they still weren't renting fast enough, so they turned it into 25% Section 8. And that's when we moved out because it was ridiculous. I mean, it was bad. They had caught in one of the apartment buildings. They had a brothel running out of one of the apartments. They had the cops were there every single night. I mean, this is the Bay Area in California, so Section 8 where I was and compared to Section 8 in San Francisco itself is a little different. That place is, oh my God, there's windows, there's like entire buildings where the whole bottom floor is just plywood windows, but people still live there. These are Section 8. These were brand new, nice apartments that were redone by the city just a couple of years ago, and now they're just torn and look like they look like something out of Iraq. It's horrible, filled with cockroaches and and needles and crack paraphernalia and brand new Mercedes and brand new Nikes though. So I don't know. I don't get it.
To get to the whole point of the elites thought that they could replace us with Arabs and Mexicans and blacks. And it turns out that Arabs and Mexicans and blacks kind of trash everything and don't keep stuff up and are generally lousy at making society function. And they're easily politically tractable, but otherwise, elites like having functioning societies and, they want nice, competent Shabbos Goy. And
right.
Our replacements aren't, and so they're on this horns of this dilemma where they wanted to replace us with these more tractable people, but the more tractable people aren't good replacements, and that's where we're at now. And we can actually just use that fact that they're not as competent as we are as leverage to say, if you want a functioning society, Mr.
You need us.
Sachs, and you need us, and you need.
Well, aren't they also kind of messing with their own population with the amount of we'll talk about who they are. They have their own little country, and they have a very high rate of STDs and homosexuality and low birth rates and stuff. They're kind of, and over here, they are also, either gay or, very promiscuous and not having kids. Seems that only the
right, and
the really religious ones, the really, really religious ones are the ones that are having, I see them walk past my house on Saturdays, and it's like the grandfather, the father, the mother, the grandmother, and the 9 kids trolling along behind.
Yep. Well, and that's, 9 might be a bit much, but it was.
Yeah, I'm joking. 4 or 5.
Well, 9 is not unheard of, but that used to be normal for white people as
right.
With the 1950s, right? 4 kids was normal.
Mm-hmm.
And
my mom's brothers and sisters. My mom's brothers and sisters are they're born again Christian, and one uncle who has, they have 7 now. First wife died, they had 4, and the second one they have 3. My one aunt has 5, 6, and then everybody else has at least 3, except my mom. My mom had 2, but my grandfather had 38 grandchildren.
That's a pretty big Monoxide family.
Yeah, it's very big. That's the white side of my family too, the one that's been here since the early 1600s. So yeah, they don't make families like that anymore, man. Not outside of Amish country, or certain parts of a certain city where they have a whole bunch of the children there. Or if you're
is that still is that Brooklyn? I don't know. I don't know the districts too well.
Oh, it's all over New York, I'm sure. I don't know if it's the same as it is in Queens. We can ask people that live. I haven't been in New York in forever, so I don't know what the demographics are of where they seem to congregate. But I know they are all over New York, and they always have a lot of kids. But the secular ones are the ones that are like, the ones that run the homosexual fucking foundations and magazines and whatever, and they're organizing the gay parades. It's weird because every time I see a gay guy, like a good percentage of the time I see a gay guy in San Francisco, he's Jewish. So, oosh, did I say that out loud? That's who they are. So I gave it away.
That's the low sexual dimorphism thing that they have going on. The women are really manly, and the men are really manly.
Not manly, yeah, feminine, yeah.
But that could be a consequence of the pills in the water and stuff, and that's
yeah, and their shitty genetics common.
So what is it? So we got like just a brief little, there's what we got the chemicals in the water turning the frog gay. We got subsidies for the worst people. We got abortions for the best stock. We got global warming and this weird overpopulation propaganda. We got the elites that have this weird complex about, maintaining their position as elites, and they want to reduce the world population by 95 million. So there's this, that's just a drop in the bucket of these thousands of little things that add up to try and control the population. And it's having some pretty damaging effects. But it's not working exactly like they planned with, Arabs and Mexicans and all these people not really making very nice neighborhoods the way that the old Shabbos Goyim class were. And this range of population control it's not just one or two little things. Or one or two big things. It's these millions of little things that add up.
Well, that's an excellent summary, Adam. And I would, if you're listening to this, like the way that they get you to do that is like, you have to have X, Y, Z, and you have to have this, and you have to have that, and you can find out that like life is not that bad without X, Y, Z, without new cars,
without cable, without HBO, without all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's actually better in some respects, and
better in most respects, I think.
Yeah. You're completely correct, of course, but that having 3 kids is not that much harder than having 2 kids, and your life is going to be better.
Right.
You'd be amazed at how much your life changes when you just turn off the Jew. As Kevin McDonald says, you let your Jew in your living room, and go live your life like a normal person, and then 4.
And you'll be happier.
Yep. And not only
that's
will
true,
you
man.
be happier, your wife will be happier, and everything generally works out better. And
that's right.
And if normal people just did that, we wouldn't, the whole like Social Security crisis goes away, the budget crisis goes away, the Medicaid, all of this stuff goes away if ordinary working class white people have ordinary families.
That's true.
All the propaganda about how horrible it is to have a family and how much it sucks to raise a baby. I wasn't the perfect son to my mother, but she still tells me time and again that, having her children was the best thing she ever did. At the end of the day, like, my message to everybody is just have a family. That's
right.
That's what happiness is about.
It really is. And that's why I'm going to be having mine and having more. So we talked about that earlier today, me and Mr. Dark Enlightenment, and I have a time limit set on, when I better hurry up and get on that again. So
you do live in San Francisco, Johnny. You don't want any rumors to be started.
No, I have. Listen, the family, we've already, if you checked out the Fatherland, you know the story. So, all right.
Yeah, I'm honestly thrilled for you, man. I'm just banting you because
I know. I know.
I know you can take it.
I know I can. Nobody takes it. Nobody takes the bands like me. So yeah, I know.
The Paranormies is a great show. I'm glad to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming, dude. Yeah, you want to go ahead and
plug your show?
Can I? I was going to say the thing. Go ahead, dude. Shit internet. Shit internet. Hey, hold on a second. Do whatever you said right after Adam said, go ahead and plug your show. So go ahead and plug your show.
Okay. I'm the host of the Northwest Imperative with my co-host and producer, Jeffrey Fairwater. And we're on TRS Radio, and we're having a good time. We're focused on life in the Northwest, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Alaska. You know, we're trying to do the regional thing, like our friends at Rebel Yell, and just kind of create a local culture for our guys. Because this mega culture of TV and
That's right.
No kids and being way into HBO and not having a family kind of blows. So
that's true.
It blows for everybody.
That's true. So, it does. I encourage everybody to go out there and have a family. Get out from behind your computer. Go out, do something, meet somebody, make your life better, get a family. This hasn't been a very Paranormies, but it was very conspiratorial and I think inspirational at the end. Adam, you got anything to add here at the end, buddy?
Guys.
Hey, no, thanks, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, just thanks again to Dark Enlightenment. It was great to have you as a guest. Make babies.
That is true. And on that note, we are going to get out of here for the right stuff. Biz. I am Johnny Monoxide, along here with Adam Haidt. We have been the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour, and we are going to finish this up with a creepypasta. We will see you next week. Later.
No, it's for brother.
I used to live in New Jersey, in an old Victorian, right smack dab in the middle of the boonies. Where I live, cell phones rarely got reception. Back a few decades ago, when I was a kid, a housing development went up, in big places. They cleared a few miles of the barrens for it. It was a stone's throw away from my house. Once the places were finished, people moved in. City people, really. It was either old people or new families with really young kids. People that wanted to either wind their life down or start up a new one. Nothing special. I knew a handful of kids through elementary school, but none of them were exactly my age. But they were normal. And when the people moved in, my mom made an effort to meet everyone, with us being so close and all. There was this one guy, though, that stuck out in my mind. Mainly because he was bald, yet young. Probably 38 at the oldest, I want to say. My mom said not to say anything because he might have a disease or something like that. Years went by, I grew up and went into middle school. I came home one day, I had to walk because I missed all the buses. I went past the housing development. Glancing down the street, I didn't see anyone. Not a soul. It was around 5:20 according to my watch, if I remember right. Normally all the fathers were getting home around 5-ish. So curiosity got to me. I walked down the street to see what I could see. Every house was dark, except for the bald man's. I glanced into his window and saw about the entire population of the small community sitting in his living room. Children, parents, the elderly, everyone. Standing in the middle of everything was the bald man. It seemed as though it was just a casual meeting. People were talking and laughing. Whatever. I didn't know why the hell I cared anyway. I walked home and got grounded for being late and not calling from the school. That night, my mom got a call from another local neighbor, saying that she was hearing unsettling grinding noises from the small community. My mom said that someone was probably getting work done. When she asked me if I'd seen anything on my way home, I didn't answer, as I was still bitter that she had grounded me in the first place. The next day, every kid from that small neighborhood was marked absent in school. And the day after that, and the day after that. The police went to investigate that night. The first thing they found was an ear on the front yard of the bald man's house. A severed, human ear. A child's arm was found in a trash can, dumped with a few empty pizza boxes, and a man's split-open torso was located in the woods behind the property, with human bite marks penetrating the flesh. The rest of the community was inside the house. All the entrances, both doors and windows, were boarded shut. When they broke down the door, they found the corpses everywhere. The entire development's population, children, parents, the elderly, everyone. Some were mutilated beyond initial recognition, and most were missing organs like livers and kidneys. Forensics showed that the victims were alive when the organs were taken out. A child's body was also found in the oven of the house, burnt to the point where the skin was melted. Forensics showed that the child was alive when his skin started to melt. Children, parents, the elderly, everyone except for the bald man. A background search on him proved that he was involved in a local sect of the occult, which are known to practice in the Pine Barrens. He fled. He hasn't been found. Needless to say, what happened literally tore our community apart in multiple ways. Instead of the boogeyman, my friends and I had nightmares about something real. About a bald man. Horror movies didn't scare me because I knew they were fake. What happened was real, and that terrifies me to this day. The massacre occurred in 1984, 28 years ago. I'm 41 now. I went back to the site last month. The houses are still standing. All of them are abandoned. The single road that once connected the community to the outside world was long overgrown. I can't find any police files, nor can I find any news broadcasts about the murders. The houses are still there, but everything that had to do with the place seems to be gone. I could spend hours telling all the urban legends I've heard about it. Weird New Jersey posted a story in their book, I think. Nothing conclusive. No newspapers, no files. I searched the record of some of the children from my school. They were never legally documented. But I know. And every other person that witnessed it and lived it in West Milford County, 1984, knows it. I cannot, in any way, express to you how much the events that I've described have literally ruined my life. If you doubt the reality of it, the only thing I can say is that you're wrong. This happened. This isn't meant to be a creepypasta. This isn't an urban legend. The only reason I've recorded this here is because I know that this is a community that will actually listen to what I'm saying. I'm not sure what I can say to make you believe, but a total of 37 people were murdered in the most brutal ways I can imagine. The place has a lot of names. It used to be called New City Village. Now it's just called Demon's Alley. Look it up for yourself if you don't believe me. People need to know about this. For all it's worth, please share this.